Let us all unite and celebrate together the victories won for our liberation. Let us dedicate ourselves to rise together to defend.
Welcome everyone. My name is Leonard Wikimo. I'm here to share a brief history about Africa and some importance of Africa to the world. African continent is occupied by the black race, which is pivotal to the development of human race globally. Like civilization started in Africa, precisely Egypt.
For millennia, the Grand Pyramids of Egypt have towered over the desert sands. Everything about the great ancient civilization that once seized the lands remained a mystery. That is, until July 19th, 1799.
They also prove and display like architecture, Egyptian pyramid, agriculture, irrigator, medicine, embalming of Egyptian's mummy, and the kings. All these are introduced to the world through Africa.
Third dynasty starts with King Djoser, best known for his step pyramid at Saqqara. Manetho's timeline is hazy on who Sennacht was when he governed in the Third Dynasty, and even his name. Sennacht's name is only known from the Abydos monarch list, the Turin Papyrus, and two reliefs discovered in the Mastaba tomb, number K2 at Beit Kalaf. Djoser erected so many monuments that historians have long assumed his tenure extended at least 20 years. He started military campaigns to Sinai and kept Egyptian unity, resulting in the stability required for his construction projects and the growth of the arts. Djoser's step pyramid at Saqqara is Egypt's first recognized pyramid, which was designed by his architect and vizier, Imhotep. Imhotep was a vizier, sage, architect, astrologer, and chief minister under Djoser, the second pharaoh of Egypt's Third Dynasty, who was later deified and worshipped as the god of medicine in Egypt and Greece, where he was associated with the Greek deity of medicine, Asclepius. He is thought to have designed the step pyramid in Memphis's Saqqara necropolis. This pyramid, which has 6 steps, is the world's oldest surviving stone monument. An inscription carrying his name on a statue of Djoser uncovered near the Saqqara pyramid site attests to Imhotep's high status in Djoser's court. The inscription includes titles such as the leader of the sculptures and the chief of the seers. Historical documents depicting Egyptian society and medicine throughout the Old Kingdom demonstrate that the main magician of the pharaoh's court frequently functioned as the nation's chief physician. The step pyramid started as a basic mastaba monument with a flat top and sloping sides, similar to many previous dynasties' tombs. The architect, Imhotep, on the other hand, had bigger plans for his king's eternal dwelling. The step pyramid is a succession of mastabas piled on top of each other, each step slightly smaller than the one beneath, to create a pyramid shape. Earlier mastabas were made of clay bricks, but the step pyramid was made of stone slabs with carved motifs of trees and reeds on them. When finished, the step pyramid stood 62 meters tall, making it the tallest building of its period. To deter robbers and secure the king's corpse and burial goods, the real chambers of the tomb were dug beneath the foundation, as a maze of passageways with rooms off the hallways. However, this strategy did not work because the tomb was robbed of all of its valuables, including the king's corpse. In antiquity, only his foot was discovered in the tomb. Nonetheless, the step pyramid's design and building epitomize the genius and vision of the Third Dynasty builders, who would later raise the buried pyramid and the layer pyramid, among many other structures and sanctuaries.
Then also look at the natural endowment, such as burning light, crude from Nigeria, coal from Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and diamond from South Africa. Also the craft work like Benin bronze, terracotta, etc., and energetic able bodies were blessings to the world. These become an envy to other continents because they never believe Africa is endowed to natural resources. This continent, Africa, was destabilized by foreign invaders who took most part of Africa's endowment by enslaving, partitioning the continent into their own favor, enforcing disunity among Africans.
Political systems were completely destroyed. Leaders were arrested, put in jail.
Fleet upon fleet of foreign soldiers armed with new weaponry and a sense of entitlement descended as if overnight.
That was traumatizing.
This was a face of their European trading partners people had rarely seen. United in their cause but divided in their efforts, armed resistance failed. In the space of just 20 years, 90% of Africa was brought under European occupation. Europe had captured a continent.
Gunboat diplomacy. In many instances, the British did not actually have to go to war. Just the threats of war, the fact that there were all these big, powerful guns was enough to force the local chiefs to sign a treaty.
All this because of massive sea changes. Not in Africa itself, but in Europe, which was in the throes of the Industrial Revolution. The advent of the machine was transforming the continent into the workshop of the world. A workshop in need of raw materials. Palm and peanut oil would literally grease the engines of the revolution. Modern transportation would need rubber for tires, and Europe's prosperous middle classes now demanded luxuries from overseas. This was the dawn of industrial-scale production, modern capitalist economies, and mass international trade. Thanks to a generation of explorers and traders, the great powers knew what riches lay in Africa. Britain and France already controlled most of the continent's ports.
Africa had diamonds, it had gold, it had cobalt, it had lots of things. It had cocoa. It had lots of things that Europe needed.
But in the new industrial era, the value of Africa rocketed, not only for materials and strategic trade routes, but also as a market for the goods it now produced in bulk. Africa was an opportunity.
The Africans wanted to trade right from the word go. They wanted to sell their labor. From Malawi and northern Rhodesia, they used to go down into South Africa. You had a movement of people. People wanted to learn. They wanted to meet each other. So it was a natural thing that the outside world should get involved with Africa.
But the scramble for Africa wasn't just about economics. Colonialism had become the fast track to political supremacy in Europe. Britannia may have ruled the waves, but Germany was rising after victory in the Franco-Prussian War. Meanwhile, the defeated French Empire sought to regain its glory, and a new unified Italy was also growing in strength. Europe was a continent in the ascendancy, whose nations were vying for supremacy. And back in Africa, their competing imperial armies were pushing inland. And this looked set to bring them into major confrontation. The rival powers convened around a conference table in the German capital, and in February 1885 signed the Act of Berlin, an agreement to abolish slavery and allow free trade. But the act also drew new borders on the map of Africa, awarding territory to each European power and turning trading partners into subjects of empire. It legalized the scramble for Africa.
What it did was it carved up what are thought to have been about between 6,000 and 10,000 political units in Africa, and they were then carved up, often cutting peoples in half, water tables just sort of cut off from their sources. It was complete geographical madness. Simply drew lines on the map, places where they had not even been yet. They had no idea what was there.
Africans were not aware that there were conferences being organized in Berlin to determine about them. Now, They did not know about it. They only saw the consequences.
But the governments of Europe were at pains to stress that their forays into Africa weren't just the product of vested interest. That beneath train tracks and shipping lanes lay a moral justification which caught the public imagination.
And they justified it by saying that they were bringing civilization and Christianity to these benighted, primitive people.
A white man's burden, beautiful language. So the European politician and the theoretician of colonialism to explain to their people why should we send our children to Tonkin, the Gulf of Tonkin, to Vietnam? Why should we send them to die in the malaria-infested part of Algeria?
Yeah, this is just a brief history about Africa and some important facts of Africa to the world. Please just do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Africa and Diaspora. We'll give you more updates.